Welcome to another episode of Joey's Scarf. Today is Sunday, July 23rd, and this is episode 13. This is a knitting and crocheting and yarny goodness podcast. My name is Linda, and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Linda Grace, and that's Linda with a Y. So today I have some finished objects. I have a couple of works in progress. I am going to announce the winner of last week. From last week, I had a celebration giveaway, and was celebrating the over 100 subscribers on YouTube, and also it's my birthday month, so I figured I would treat you guys to a little giveaway. And Ross helped me pick the winner, and the winner was determined by the comments that were left on my YouTube video from last week, and there were 18 entries. And here's how Ross picked the winner. Okay, so here we are. I'm gonna let Ross pick the winner from the little celebration contest that we had from last episode. We're celebrating my birthday and 100 subscribers that I've passed on YouTube. So I have all the names. There were 18 entries, I think. Have them all in this little
They are
tote.
really lucky just to have entered.
That's
Just
true.
wait till they see what they get.
Well, I'm going to show them. They already know some of it, yeah. All right, so I'm mixing them up.
Okay.
You see, they're all in there.
Now you're all going to find out what I'm useful for.
Okay, go for it. Pick a good winner. Okay, just one.
Okay.
Okay, and the winner is Nancy Marchevka. Nancy, congratulations. You were number 16, and you won.
Yay!
Yay!
There we go. Yay!
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have anything else to add today?
No, the veggie burgers were really good. I recommend them.
Which veggie burgers?
Well, these are Mr. Chan's.
From?
Mr. Chan. From Costco.
From Costco.
But they now carry Mr. Prager's veggie burgers, which are an old-time standard,
Yeah.
going back to the vegetarian restaurants in Manhattan.
Oh. Okay, so your lunch was a veggie burger.
It was actually I ate 2 veggie burgers.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Is that it? Anything else?
That's it. I'm just going to disappear now and do whatever prize pickers do.
What?
They aren't picking prizes.
Oh, prize picker. All right. Well, you have any
Okay.
comments on this podcast that I'm doing?
Just take it easy, and everybody will listen at their own rate.
Whatever that means. Okay. All right. See you later. Say bye.
Bye. Oh. Bye.
Yeah, so Nancy, if you can get in touch with me. Again, I'm Linda Grace on Instagram and also on Ravelry, and that's Linda with a Y. I'll talk about the prize that Nancy is going to get in a little bit. So before we get started, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what Ross and I did last night. A former classmate of mine from my high school graduating class decided that she was going to have a little get-together for a few of us who are still in the area, and she sent me an invite about a month or so ago to invite me to this gathering. Now, I have to tell you, in high school, when I was in high school, I have not changed. I was still, I think, well, I'm a little less shy and introverted now, I think, but when I was in high school, I was really 10 times more shy and And I had a few close friends, but really didn't participate that much in, extracurricular activities in high school. And actually, my father was an old Italian, strict Italian father, and he kept us pretty close to home. So I didn't really interact with a lot of my classmates. And when Linda sent me the invitation, she mentioned a few of the people who were going to be there, and I did not recognize any of the names, so I had to dig out my yearbook to see if their pictures would jog my memory. And to tell you the truth, I was a little nervous about going because my fear was not that I wouldn't know these people, because I think that after looking them up in the yearbook, I was pretty confident that I would at least recognize their names, and I was hoping that we would have introductions or name tags or something. But I was more afraid that they wouldn't recognize me, which I kind of, after a while, I kind of talked myself out of that and said, so what if they don't? I'm just going to go and it will be nice to see what, everyone is up to, and, I'm going to try and overcome my shyness. Luckily, Ross was also invited, and he's a big help because he's comfortable in most situations. So I think that was he was my security blanket. But we went, and I was she had it at the local community center in her town, which is like a couple of towns over. So I was kind of wondering, why she was having it there if it was only going to be a couple of us. And when we walked into the place, I was really surprised because there were over 100 people there. And as it turned out, she was having a celebration for her birthday. I think that's what it was about, but she didn't want to say that in the invitation. I guess she didn't want to have, anybody bringing gifts or whatever. But she had, a lot of her friends, her family. We had a whole table of high school people that we went to high school with. And so there were about, I think about 9 or 10 of us from our graduating class. And I was right. No one knew who I was. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. I understand why that was. And actually, I had brought my yearbook, and when I flipped open, they all wanted to see what I looked like back in high school to see if they would remember. And when I showed my picture, they all said, "Oh yeah, we remember you now." Kind of don't know if they did or not, but it made me feel better. But we really had a nice time, and I'm glad I went. And it was nice to catch up with these people who I really didn't know in high school, but now we did have that experience in common. And at this point in our life, we've all gone through life. Children, grandchildren, most of us, marriages, widowhood, divorces, just all of life's events, which brought us together. And I'm really glad I went. And I'll probably put some pictures in here or there to show you. It was a grand affair, really. Linda outdid herself. She really put on a really nice party, and I'm so happy I went. So I'm wondering, how is it like? What was your high school experience like? Do you go to your reunions? Was it a good experience? I'm just curious. Well, you can let me know in the comments below. Just curious. So let's get on to some knitting. Okay, first finished object I'm going to show you is a cowl that I was working on. It was a work in progress last time I podcast, but it's the 10 and Counting cowl, and it's by Kat Archer, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry, and I really like the way it came out. I love the design, and it was just so simple to do, and fun. It was fun to do. I really liked the way it came out. I knit it according to the length of the pattern, the instructions in the pattern. But when I tried it on, and I had bound it off, I bound it off and everything. I did a bind off and everything. I wasn't happy with the length of it. It wasn't long enough for me. So I unraveled it. I unraveled the ribbing and made it longer. And the other thing, the ribbing was too wide. So when I added some length to it, I also changed needle sizes. I went down. I think I was doing this on a size 3. And when I went to bind it off, I switched. When I went to do the ribbing, when I went to do the ribbing on the end, I switched to a size 2 because I wanted it a little snug, at least on one end. That seemed to help a little bit, and I made it longer. What I really wanted to have it be like was this cowl, which is the sockhead cowl, which I did last year. I made this, and I really got a lot of use out of this. I wear it constantly. I even wear it sometimes around the house now. If my neck is sore, it just feels good around my neck. But the 10 and counting cowl that I made was wider, and it just didn't, and longer, you can see. And still I could have added some length, but I kind of ran out of yarn. And the 10 and counting cowl is wider, so it doesn't fit as snug as the sockhead cowl did. And the sockhead cowl, I did it on I think a size 1 needle, and that's why the fabric is much closer together, and it just fits more snug. So I'm going to show you what I mean. So this fits really nice around my neck. There's not a lot of loose fabric, and it just kind of hugs my neck. And this is what I was hoping this one would fit the same way. And it doesn't. So let me show you what this one looks like. So the 10 and counting, see there's a lot more material. And I mean, it looks nice, but I just feel like there's just too much material here. So it's like I would be constantly fussing with it. And so I still will keep it, and I'm sure I'll wear it, under a coat or something. But I'm going to make another one, and I'm going to use the smaller needle, and I'm going to do the design because I like the design. But I'm going to, the next one I make, I'm going to use the smaller needle, and hopefully there won't be as much material. But like the pattern, like the design, and next time, and the yarn, I like the yarn a lot, by the way. The yarn is Savvy Skeins, and it is it's San Antonio sock. The colorway is Helter Skelter. So the yarn is very nice, very nice. And this is all I had left, so that's why I couldn't make it longer. And well, I learned. And I'm sure I'll use it, and I will make it again because I just enjoyed knitting it so much. So that's the story of my first finished object. Sorry about all that noise around the microphone. I forget that I'm wearing it. But not much I can do about that. Okay, so the next finished object I have is a pair of socks. Okay, so here's my socks. Here are my socks. And these are my July socks, and which I am entering into the Naughty Knitwits Socket Knit Along, their monthly sock project. So again, like the way these came out. The yarn is from KT and the Squid, and it's their Simply Sock base. 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and the color is Plain Koi Sprinkles. And I really like this colorway. And this is just my plain vanilla sock. I did these on a circular needle. I did them magic loop, but I did them one at a time. I started off doing these 2 at a time. And it just seems to take forever when you're doing them 2 at a time. And it's probably psychological, but after I got, I do these cuff down. When I got to about here, I said, this is taking too long. So I separated them, and I continued to do them 1 at a time. And it just seems to go faster. I don't know. But anyway, I like the way these came out. The toes and the heels are, I think they're Cascade. They're sock yarn, but I don't remember. But anyway, I really do like the way these came out. I think they're gonna, I don't know, they might be a Christmas gift. We'll see. But yeah, that's my sock. And this is, I had a lot left over of the yarn, so I'm probably going to make some shorties maybe. I don't know, we'll see. But that's my next finished object. And I have another pair of little pair of socks, and these I was working on these last time and I finished them, and these are for my 3-year-old grandson. It came out cute. The yarn was just some yarn I had, leftover yarn, and they came out nice. I don't know if they're going to fit him. I hope so. It was funny. I had my 8-year-old grandson here, and I had these sitting on my desk, and he spotted them, and he said, "Oh, are those socks for me?" And I said, "I don't think these are going to fit you, Ty." So he said, "Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I want them." And I said, "Okay, try them on." They did not fit him at all. He could barely get them on his feet. But he insisted that he was going to have these socks. And he was visiting here from Georgia. It was the next day he was going to be leaving to go back home. So I convinced him that I would make him a pair that fit him, and I would be sending it on through the mail for him, and he would be getting it shortly. Well, now I don't know how quick I'm going to be doing that, but I will make him a pair, and I'll be using these kind of as to judge how long I should make his socks. But yeah, so these are for my little 3-year-old grandson Jackson. So that's my. I think that's it for finished objects. Okay, next I'm going to talk about a work in progress. And I had started this last time, and I've gotten quite far. This is the Flex Light sweater by Tin Can Knits. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. And I'm really liking knitting it. I'm at the point now where it's just straight knitting, and I have to knit, I think, 14 inches from the underarm to get to where I would start doing the bottom ribbing. But it's really coming out nice. Still not sure it's going to fit me. I hope so. If not, I have a granddaughter that it will probably fit. But this is a nice pattern. It's got a little texture on the sleeves, garter stitch on the sleeves. It adds a little nice little touch to it. So I haven't knit many sweaters, and I was pretty happy that I am, and that it's coming out right so far. But this yarn is Madeline Tosh, yeah. And it's Twist Light is the name of it. And the color, I can't pronounce it, but that's the color. And this is 75% merino, 25% nylon. And it really feels nice. I love the colors. I really like the colors a lot. So that's my my work in progress. And I love working on it, actually. But it's going to be a while. And 14 inches is a lot to knit, just to get to the ribbing, and then I have to do the sleeves. So I don't know when it'll be done, but eventually. That's my first work in progress. Okay, my next work in progress, I just started this one, and it is called, the pattern is the Cozy Color Block Shawl. And it's a free pattern on Ravelry, and it's by Sarah Knight. If you search for this, make sure you spell the color, the word color, this way with the O-U-R, or otherwise it won't come up. I had made one of these a couple of years ago, and I really liked the way it came out. I was a pretty novice knitter at the time, and maybe my stitches weren't quite as nice as they could have been. So that's why I wanted to make another one. But I'll put a picture of me wearing the original shawl, and I did get a lot of compliments on it. But I wanted to make another one. The one that I made out of worsted weight yarn, and it wasn't merino, and I decided to make it out of merino fingering weight yarn, this next one. The pattern actually calls for bulky yarn, but I don't know. I don't think I would like to wear. It would be just too much for me out of bulky yarn. So I decided to do it out of the fingering weight, and this is what I've done so far. And it's a very, very simple pattern. You start off with one stitch, and every other row you increase a stitch at the same end, so it grows that way, and it's all garter stitch. This yarn is Knit Picks yarn, and Knit Picks was having a sale on their Glimmer Stroll, so I picked up a couple of skeins to make the shawl. And this is going to be my color combination. So the first color is called Kestrel, and it's sort of like a gunmetal gray, I want to say, but it has the glimmer in it. It doesn't really show up too much on the gray. But this is their 70% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and 5% stellina. And that's the composition of this yarn. This color is called Foxglove, You can really see the glimmer in this one. And then the other color here is called J. So that's going to be my color combo for the shawl. Now this calls for 4 colors actually. So I'm not sure how I'm going to manage that because I don't know what I'm going to do here. Figure out what my striping color is going to be. I'll have to find another color to go in there. I'm not quite sure what it's going to be yet. But I'm enjoying making this. It's just, you know, straight knitting, mindless TV knitting. But the yarn feels really nice and squishy, garter stitch. And I'm enjoying making it and looking forward to wearing it in the winter, in the fall. I have a couple of languishing projects, don't we all? But I decided to pick up on one of them, and that is my granny stripe afghan. So I'm going to show you how far I've gotten with this now so far, because I picked it up again. But this is it. And sides are a little wonky, but I don't care because I'm going to be putting a border around it anyway. This is the pattern from Attic 24, I think, the one that everyone is using. And I am glad I picked it up, started crocheting on it again. I think I'm using a size, like an F hook, if I remember. So I am amazed when I watch other podcasters as they describe each and every skein and what the color is and where they got it and whose it is. Not me, I have no clue. The bands are off the yarn, and that's it. It's history gone from my mind. So I just pick a ball of yarn out of the bag, all of my scraps and leftovers from socks and stuff, and whatever comes up, that's what I'm going to knit, and I knit to the end of the ball, and that's what my how I'm doing this. No rhyme or reason, but Ross saw me working on this the other night, and he has laid claim to it because it was really pretty. I mean, it's really nice and soft, and it'll be nice to curl up under. So that's one of my languishing projects. Another one is another Ross project, and that is his socks. I've still not, his second pair that I'm making for him. I haven't gotten that very far. I don't know. I guess I figure he's not going to wear these until the winter time anyway, so they can kind of hang out. And doing these on a 9-inch circular, which I really like doing. The only problem is, and I think I've mentioned this before, once I get to have to do the toe decrease, I have to switch to magic loop. And my gauge is much different when I'm using magic loop, even though the needle is the same size. So I think I've decided after I finish this pair for Ross, I'm going to always, I think, just use the magic loop method. Unless I go down a needle size in the 9-inch and get a 00, because I'm using a 0 here. But when I go to switch over to magic loop on a 0 circular 40-inch or whatever it is, my gauge is much tighter, much looser on the 9-inch. So I would have to go down to, I'd have to use a 00 to get this fabric. So I might do that because I really enjoy doing the 9-inch circular. That to me is the fastest knitting that I do on the sock, is with the 9-inch circular. But because of the gauge difference, once I switch over, I don't like the way it looks. So I either, like I said, I either go down a needle size on 9-inch to a 00, or just make the sock the whole way with magic loop. So that's my other Languishing project. I forgot to mention before that we have because it is the group. We have a group on Ravelry for the podcast, and it's called Joey's Scarf. Right now we are doing a knit along, and it's called Joey's Scarf Cozy 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 Make Along. And the idea of the make along is that you can knit, crochet, even so, if you want, I guess, something that you would consider cozy for the upcoming fall. One of the original things that we did were tea cozies, and so there's some nice cute tea cozies in the thread. I've made a tea cozy and a shawl, and I think my next project, if I get around to it, I keep talking about it, is going to be footsies or shorty socks, bed socks, that kind of thing. But the make along is running till the end of August, so if you'd like to join in, please do so. Thanks. Another group I wanted to talk about is a group that I started for podcasters, a support group for podcasters. I started the group, and I called it some bulky name like Beginner Crafty Podcasters, or not, something bulky, and it wasn't very descriptive, and it wasn't very inclusive, the name I'm talking about. So I decided to change the name. And the name of the group now is called Podcaster Support Group. And I thought it would be a nice idea to have a group where those of us who podcast, especially the newbies, a place to go for some support, ask questions, and just support each other as podcasters. I haven't gotten there hasn't been a lot of activity in the group. I think there are 18 members right now. I'm not sure. I'm going to give the group another couple of months to give it a chance. But if it doesn't produce any activity, I'm probably going to delete the group. But I am going to give it a couple more months of a chance. So if you're a podcaster and you want to join the group, please do that, and hopefully we can help each other along the way. I've discovered a couple of new podcasts. One of them is Honeybee Knits, and I actually joined her group on Ravelry, the Honeybee Knits podcast group on Ravelry. And she has a thread going for if you want to advertise your Etsy shop or a podcast. You can talk about it in this thread. And she podcasts once a week, and every week she pulls a name from that thread, and she sends out a prize. And I was lucky enough this time to win. So I'd like to show you what Melissa sent me. She makes project bags. She also dyes yarn, I believe, but she does make project bags. So I got one of her project bags, and this is it's a sock, for a sock maybe project. It's a drawstring bag, cute. And she's got the honeybees on there. I love the color combination of the gray and the yellow. Some treats, sweets, which are always nice. What else is in here? luscious smelling soap, and it's black raspberry vanilla soap, and it's by Blueberry Hill Soaps. Smells really nice, really nice. She also sent me a skein of yarn, and this is opal, and it is 75% wool and 25% polyamide, which I guess is like nylon. This is the way it's going to knit up, and I thought these were nice Christmas colors, so I think these are going to be a pair of Christmas socks. And she's got cute note card, and she sent me a nice little note. And the nice thing is that she sent 2 of her bags, and one she wanted me to use as a giveaway. So this is going to be part of the prize package for that Nancy Marchevka. You are a lucky lady, because you're also going to win. You're also going to be getting one of Melissa's bags. And along with that, so thank you, Melissa, very much. I'm not sure if you watch my podcast or not, but that was very nice of you to include an extra bag for a giveaway. So that leads me to talk about the prize that I'm going to be sending out to Nancy. So she's going to be getting one of Melissa's bags, and that's Honeybee Knits. And also I'm going to be including one of these spiced mug mats that I picked up in Cape May. And this is beautiful, beautiful yarn from Toad Hollow Yarns, and they are known as the Crafty Toads. They have a podcast, and they're they're Toad Hollow Yarns. That's the name of their yarn. But it is beautiful, beautiful yarn. I love this one. It's so pretty. But that's the prize package for that Nancy one. So I know you're going to love it. And thank you. Thank you to Honeybee Knits, Melissa. Thank you to everyone who participated in the leaving me some really, really lovely comments, and I really appreciate that. And so that's the story of our giveaway, and one of the new podcasts that I've been listening to. Oh, another podcast that I've been listening to, and it's brand new. I think they've only recorded a couple of episodes, and it's called, let's see if I can find it. It's called the Chelsea Pearls Podcast, and I'll put the name across the screen here. And I think her name is Christina. She owns a shop in Red Bank, New Jersey, a yarn shop in Red Bank, New Jersey. And so her podcast is being podcast from the shop, and she's really got some nice yarns there. Christina also dyes yarns. Hope that's her name. Yes, I just checked, and that is, her name is Christina, and she podcasts with a woman who also works at the Chelsea at the store. I think the name of her store is Chelsea Yarns, but I'll put all that information across the bottom. But I'm really enjoying their first 2 podcasts. They're really cute together, and seem so warm and friendly, and just having a good time with the podcast. So that's another one I want to recommend to you. And don't forget to watch Victoria Knits and Baba Yaya. another two of my favorite podcasts. I like watching both of those ladies too. So this brings me to the point in the podcast that I set aside to spend a few moments talking about my son Joe. I have a blog that I've had for about 6 years now, and writing has been a great outlet for me, along with knitting. Today I sat down, excuse me, I sat down and wrote something that I wanted to read on the podcast today. So if you will indulge me, here's what I wrote. Okay, the name of this piece is called If You Knew Joe. So I'm thinking about what I have to do to get ready for my podcast today. In case you are new to my blog, let me explain. For the past 6 months, I've been doing a YouTube video podcast. The main topics of the podcast are about knitting. But the name of my podcast is Joey's Scarf, in honor of my son Joe, who passed away from colon cancer. At the end of each podcast, I take a few minutes to talk about Joe. During the last few episodes, I have even read some of my writings from this blog. My objective with the Joey segment was to introduce the viewers of the podcast to Joe, and quite frankly, also give me a forum to just be able to talk about my Joe. For the past 6 years, readers of this blog, and for the past 6 months, viewers of my podcast have gotten to know Joe. You know of his gentleness, his uniqueness, his deeply quiet and thoughtful personality. You know that he loved all kinds of music, but in particular, off-the-rails indie bands. I've shared that he played the guitar, which he did, not usually for an audience, but strictly for the love of his music. You all know that he was a loyal Mets fan, even during their darkest hours. I've talked about how his work ethic made him a most valued employee, and that he, his sister, and I all worked together at the same company. I talked about his love story, marriage, and birth of his most cherished little boy. You know how much of a fighter he was, how he fought so hard to stay here as long as he possibly could for Anne, the long love of his life, and for his little baby boy, Domani, the newest love of his life. How when he told us that even though his treatment wasn't working anymore and he would be discontinuing the chemo, he held my hand while I cried and told me I still have more time. I still may from time to time talk about Joe, and if I'm having a sad day, I might share that with you too. I think I will continue to share my writings at the end of the podcast, but perhaps they will be on varied topics. I might even share some of my fiction because, like my love of knitting, writing has helped me through a most difficult time. Most importantly, I know that if you knew Joe personally, you would have liked him. And now you do know Joe quite personally. So my Joe is now our Joe, and that makes me smile. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is, that I think it's time to, I think I've told you so much about Joe that I think my goal in sharing and letting you get to know Joe has been fulfilled. And as I said in the piece, every once in a while I'll still come up with a Joe story to tell you. But I'm going to branch out maybe a little bit from that and talk about other different things. So I hope you've enjoyed my Joey segments, and it has meant so much to me to be able to do that. And also I have heard from you, and it's been very touching to me that you have trusted me enough with your stories to share with me, and it really means a lot to me, so I want to thank you for that. I think that's all that I have for today, and I'd love to hear more from you. I feel like I've gotten to know a few of you very well. And shout out to Jan and to Sylvia and to Vicky. To Victoria, I think I've gotten to know you quite well, and I look forward to our Instagram exchanges. But and also there are so many more of you too who have reached out to me, and I want you to continue to do so, and hopefully we can get to know each other really well. So that's it for today. I'll be back in a couple of weeks with some more finished objects, I hope. And I look forward to talking with you. So, bye now. Oh, so anyway, I'm in the middle of doing this podcast and looking out the window, and I see these deer running across my yard. So I had to stop and capture them on film.